the members of what is arguably the most influential and historically significant Christian hip hop group of all time, one of the key members walked away from the faith and made an announcement about it on Facebook. The Phanatik, also known as Brady Goodwin. If you're from a different generation, it's hard to properly explain unless you're like a historian of Christian hip hop, the impact the cross movement had, and Phanatik was certainly a big part of that. He dropped several solo albums as well as being part of cross movement, and they did a lot of stuff that you see happening in CHH. If you pay attention to that genre, would be different as far as the faces and whatnot involved, and especially the tenor. Yeah, especially the tenor. I mean, for example, ultimately, cross movement is the one who platformed to a larger degree Lecrae. And of course, that starts to reach. So there's a whole domino effect. But that's not the only one. Flame, you go down the list, the Truth.
For sure.
And the Phanatik was part of that. He was instrumental of that. And they brought, yes, a reform sensibility. But I think what was more important for the larger culture was a sensibility of deep theological exposition with really ill rhymes, like heavy wordplay, dope patterns that were much more advanced than most Christian rap artists. And they were dope artists at the time, but they weren't quite doing what cross movement came out doing. And cross movement, in a lot of ways, as far as lyrically, surpassed a lot of their secular counterparts. Now, they, of course, never ended up with the production. What I mean is the budgetary production. But that's a reality. So we set it in context. So if someone's like, who's this guy? Why are they talking about a person who's walked away from the faith? It's because of the impact and the legacy of cross movement. And it ended up not just affecting rap. It ended up affecting people in all kinds of other ways. It influenced people to go to Bible school and Bible college and seminary, influenced people to church plant, and influence all kinds of movements. And that's really what they wanted. They wanted a cross movement. That was the reason for the group's name, because I was listening to an interview by Cruz Cordero, one of the other members recently, and that's what he was saying. And so Brady was a big part of that. Post-cross movement life, he took on the role really of an educator, especially in the realm of youth. He would teach them ethics and whatnot and try to relate it to culture and do so from a biblical worldview. He also published wrote several, he wrote, I think it was 2 books, if I'm not mistaken, books that were allegorical. So if you think of Pilgrim's Progress or something like that, not that it was Pilgrim's Progress per se, although I think the journey, at least on the first one, was to go to a soul food restaurant, but there's all kind of play on words with that. And so he was an author and always was thinking of the next book type of thing. I think he put out 4 books. I read from one the other day. Here's one that I have right here, From Hip Hop to Hollywood, The Art of Christianity. Okay. And so, and it's sort of cross movement was always intellectual, but he was sort of especially intellectual out of an intellectual group. Yeah. And then went to really what may be the most prestigious evangelical seminary, not necessarily the most prestigious school in the whole world. I'm not saying that, but within evangelical seminaries, the school that's kind of known to have the most rigorous standards in a variety of ways is Westminster, Philadelphia, because there's also a Westminster in the San Diego area. It's a dope school, but it sort of has a different tone to it. So went to a very rigorous seminary and started having doubts, and we're going to play some clips of these, and then recently turned in a letter to his church, withdrew his membership, and said he's also withdrawing his membership from the global church, and believes the Bible is, he doesn't say this exact phrase, but I think this is the essence of what he says, reducible to the human mind. Perhaps all religion is for him. He's going to come out more with what he believes, but he essentially seems to be a humanist now. He did not label himself as such, so I'm trying to be charitable. That's not a slur per se to say someone's a humanist, but it seems like that's his position now. And he's talking about he's writing a book that's going to give the other side the voice to kind of voice these doubts and his reason for the doubts. Although I don't really know if that's a new voice. It seems like that's what the New Testament and a lot of biblical scholarship is already filled with, because there's more non-Christians than there are Christians. But that's his perspective, I think, to the people that he feels are being kind of protected or shielded by benign falsehoods. Is essentially now this is all from a 24-minute video. However, there's somewhat of a track record recently by Brady Phanatik on Facebook that fills in some of the blanks if you've seen some of the stuff he's been posting and some of his interactions, which we have to an extent. So that's where it comes at. So what we want to do tonight, I believe, and I'm handing it back over, but you told me to stall for time, so I'm doing it, brother.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't. I forgot you had to get to Gab, man. So when I said stall for time, I didn't think you were gonna filibuster. For 10 minutes. But I'm joking, man. I'm joking. But that's a really good summary, though. That's
if I want to filibuster, I have to come over there and touch you. Filibuster. Oh, just kidding.
Oh, okay. I see the wordplay. Okay.
Nah,
okay. No. Go for it. Tell them what we about to do.
But that is it. So what we're trying to do tonight is sort of a probing analysis in depth, especially looking at some epistemological and philosophical considerations, because there's not a ton of detail there, but there are some larger epistemological and philosophical considerations. So we're going to go at those. And I don't know if Brady's able to watch all the stuff coming out. He doesn't, I don't think, know us, even though I have met him, and it was always a good experience when I met him. I don't know, he's got a
I don't know him like that. I've interacted with him on Facebook and stuff. I mean, I met him at a show and things like that, back in the day. But I don't really know him like that. Yeah.
If he does, Adam, I'm hoping that he sees, okay, these guys, they're of the old mindset that I was at, but they seem intellectually serious about this.
Right.
Maybe we could have a conversation about it. At least maybe we can even, by God's grace, give him some food for thought. But this is also for you out there. If you shouldn't be, but if you are shook up so bad by Brady, now you're questioning, you should not be. But if you are, we love you. And hopefully a conversation, a sane, sober conversation like we're going to have tonight will help you as well, by God's grace.
No, that's great, man. That's a great summary of where we're at and where we're going. And I do want to say, because who knows? Maybe he will watch this. I don't know what his temperament is to respond. I don't know. It'd be interesting to have some sort of dialogue or something like that. But from my standpoint, Laura knows. I talked about it last night when I was on Damon's channel. The impact of Christian hip hop on my life has been tremendous. I actually on Instagram. For those who've been in the CHH world for a while, they'll remember a brother named used to go by the name Mac the Doulos. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. And he had commented on Mason's thread, I think, when we had dropped the Urban Apologetics book last year, and I hopped on it and I was just sharing with him, it was just appreciation for the work that brothers like him had put in, because I feel like what I do now as an urban apologist is an outworking of that movement. I'm saying? I'm a legacy of the CHH movement. Kind of like you were saying, it wasn't just about rapping, but it was more so a movement that launched people in the ministry in various different ways. And so I've always said that that's kind of how I see myself. And, so when I was writing the Urban Apologetics, book, or the chapter, I'm sitting there listening to the Cross Movement. I'm sitting there listening to, Corey Red and Precise and Jay Silas and all these Defy Life and all these guys. And anyway, that's just kind of how I came up, But so that being said, personally, I don't have any ill will towards Brady. He's had an impact on my life. I'm not ashamed to say that. Certainly don't have any ill will towards him now. But, this is what we do. I do believe that you can't build a strong community on a foundation of weak ideas. Certainly can't build a profitable life on the foundation of weak ideas. And so when ideas are brought to the community or brought to the forefront that I think, could be detrimental in any sort of a way, or, need to be addressed, we address them, Now, that's not to say, I'm be clear, some of what he was saying, I can relate to, because part of the reason why I'm here now is because I, years ago had my own crisis of faith. You know what I'm saying? That's part of the reason why I got into apologetics. I can recall, particularly me coming out of the Word of Faith movement. You know what I'm saying? I was steeped in bad theology, and that left doors open for me to have real challenges when it came to Christianity, because my bad theology wasn't stout enough to stand up to the rigors of life, particularly as I, became an adult and things like that. And so it left me with a bunch of questions that Kenneth Copeland and Creflo Dollar couldn't answer. That just is what it is. And interestingly enough, I'll just share this real briefly. It's funny. I remember the Cross Movement came to Faith Landmarks Ministries back in the day, where I was attending at the time Richmond And I was, I used to MC. I did a little, did a little something back in the day or whatever.
Oh, I don't mean, you can
You know,
spit, man. You can spit.
But I remember, one of the one of our the members of the church said, "Oh man, you should holler at Crossway, man. See if you can get on with him." And I remember saying to myself at the time, now mind you, I was deep in like word of face up at the time, and I remember like, yeah, man, they cool or whatever, but they don't be on the prosperity stuff like we be. I listen to him, but I'm not really with him like that, And here I am thinking that like my theology was like super tight, and I was being gracious toward them, not knowing that I was like on some ill stuff. I was like out there or whatever. But interestingly enough, when I think about like the songs that they dropped, particularly from Holy Culture and Human Emergency, like for whatever reason in that era, listen to their songs like the Hot What joint talking about the prosperity gospel, because I was a lyricist and I really took in what they were saying, and that was the first step for me to get out of bad theology, to get out of the faith movement, you know what I'm saying? And so I certainly praise God for that, so I said it to say, like, again, for me, I had my struggles, from a faith standpoint, so I can relate to having questions that seem difficult to answer, even after I, got out of the word of faith. I mean, like, just my nature is I'm constantly asking questions, and I'm not against that. You know what I'm saying? I'm certainly not against, the idea that we need to explore as much as we possibly can, be rational people, be critically thinking people, and follow the truth and follow evidence where it leads. I'm all for that. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that we should suppress doubts. I think that we should challenge them. You know what I'm saying? I think we need to, face them head on. And for me, in doing so, what I found was that, man, like when my stoutest doubts, that I had, you know what I'm saying, when I faced them head on, whether it be the problem of evil or a number of different things, I found myself finding that Christianity is certainly a robust worldview that has all the resources within it to address my concerns. And it actually, through that, I became a stronger believer. I'm saying, by facing up, to my doubts and facing my fears, so to speak. I'll leave it with this. I'll never forget sitting at the job. Show my hand here, but I was sitting at the job listening to Jay Electronica. You know what I mean? He had this joint, I think it's called like One with the Infinite or something with the Infinite or something like that. And at the time I was kind of wrestling with, Christianity from a textual standpoint, whether or not I'm going to find out that it's a ripoff from Kemet or something like that. And I remember the angst that I felt sitting there at my this overtime gig that I was at, listening to him, like, dag, what if I find out that Christianity is not true? What am I going to do? And just, the way I am, I couldn't, leave it at that. I had to go research it out, because I don't want to live a lie. I don't want to be living in something that's not true and giving my life over to something that's a falsehood. And so I pursued the truth as hard as I possibly could, both the safe sources and the unsafe sources, as we'll see him kind of mention here in a second. And I found out, you know what? Yeah, there's rational grounds to affirm that Christianity is true. And so that's why I'm here. So I said it to say that doubt doesn't have to, lead to departure, from the faith. Doubt doesn't have to, lead to an abandoning of the biblical worldview. I think that just because somebody else experiences doubt, or just because you experience doubt, that's not necessarily the death knell, to what the biblical worldview has to offer. Face your fears, face your doubts. And I think the truth is big enough to overcome them. So I guess we'll just kind of get into some of these clips, man, and see where it takes us, huh?
Let's do it.
Yeah, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Got a lot of people up in here, man. We balling in here today. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Also, shout out to the person who put these clips together. They did a really good job.
Okay, great. Oh, okay. It was you because you put the clips together. Oh, got you. So, in other words, shout out to Vocab, because Vocab was the one to put them together. Got you. All right. So we'll start with clip one.
Passages